All right, welcome everyone. If you're gearing up for your ACCA LW-ENG exam, then you have come to the right place. We're about to dive deep into one of the absolute cornerstones of company law. We're talking about company directors. Their roles, their duties, all of it. So let's jump right in.
So who's really calling the shots in a company? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the legal answer, well, that's a whole different story. Is it the people who own the company, the shareholders? Or is it the folks they hire to actually run the day-to-day business? Getting to the bottom of who's legally in charge and what that really means is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay, here's the plan. First, we'll meet the directors and look at the different types. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how they're hired and fired. After that, we hit the big one, the 7 statutory duties. This is key stuff. And finally, we'll see what happens when directors cross the line and face disqualification. A nice, clear path.
All right, Section 1, let's meet the directors. To really get a handle on this, I want you to picture a company as a huge ship. Now, the shareholders, they own the ship, but they're probably not the ones who know how to navigate treacherous waters or manage the engine room. So they hire a captain and a crew to steer the vessel and make sure it gets to its destination safely. Well, those are your directors. They are the captains of the corporate ship.
So, if we put it in more formal terms, a company director is the person appointed to manage the company's business on behalf of the shareholders. And that brings us to a really crucial idea here. Directors are what we call agents. Their number one legal duty, their primary obligation, is to act in the best interest of the company itself. Not for themselves, not for a friend, but for the company. That's the core of it all.
Okay, Section 2. Let's talk about the different types of directors. Because just like on a ship's bridge, not everyone wears the same hat. The law is pretty specific about recognizing different kinds of directors, and for your exam, you absolutely have to know the difference. It's like knowing who's the captain, who's the first mate, and maybe even who's that mysterious person on the shore shouting instructions through a megaphone.
First up, we've got the most common and straightforward type, the de jure director. It's just a fancy Latin term that means by law. This is the person who's been appointed by the book. All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, their appointment is valid, their name is on the official register. They are 100% a director, no questions asked.
Then things get a little more interesting with the de facto director. De facto means in fact. So this is someone who acts like a director, is treated like a director by everyone else, but oops, their formal appointment is messed up somehow. And here's the kicker, and this is so important. The law basically says, we don't care about your paperwork problem. If you walk the walk and talk the talk of a director, then you're on the hook for all the same duties. And that leads us to the most mysterious figure of all, the shadow director. Now, this person is a real ghost in the machine. They're not on the board, their name isn't on any official documents. But here's the test. If the officially appointed directors are just used to following this person's orders, no questions asked, then the law says, aha, we see you. That person in the shadows can be held just as liable as a proper director. It's a massive point for understanding where the real power can lie.
And within the official board, there's another key split you need to know: executive versus non-executive directors. Think of it as the insiders versus the outsiders. The executive directors are employees, your CEO, your CFO. They're in the trenches every day. The non-executives, on the other hand, are the outsiders. They aren't employees. They're brought in for their independent perspective and to keep an eye on things. Getting that mix right, well, that's the secret sauce of good corporate governance.
Okay, Section 3. So we know who the players are. Now, how do they get on the team and how do they get kicked off? Let's talk about appointment and removal. There are clear rules for this, set out both in law and in the company's own constitution.
This table lays it all out pretty clearly. And notice that nice bit of symmetry there. The members, who remember are the shareholders, have the power to both hire and fire directors with a simple majority vote. The board itself can also bring someone in to fill a spot that's opened up. And on the flip side, people can leave by resigning, retiring, or, if things go really badly, through disqualification. And here we are, Section 4. I'm going to say it, this is the absolute heart of the matter. This is the big one. We know who's at the helm of the ship, now we need to look at their official rulebook. We're talking about the 7 statutory duties. This is the legally binding code of conduct that every single director, I don't care if they're de jure, de facto, or even a shadow director, owes to their company.
Just lock this number into your brain. 7. Not 6, not 8. There are 7 fundamental duties, all laid out in the Companies Act 2006, that you have to have down cold for the exam. Let's go through them.
Okay, let's run through the list. You can almost group these into two buckets. The first bucket is all about doing a good job in good faith. You've got acting within the company's rules, promoting the success of the company, and using your own independent judgment. And of course, exercising reasonable care, skill, and diligence. Then you've got the second bucket, which is all about loyalty. This is huge. It's about avoiding conflicts of interest, not taking secret benefits, and being upfront about any personal stake you have in a deal.
So, what happens when the captain breaks the code, when they fail in their duties? Well, the consequences can be severe, and that brings us to our final section, director disqualification. Think of it as being thrown off the corporate ship and told you can't captain another one for a very long time.
Now, a court doesn't just do this for fun. There have to be serious grounds. A really common one is what's called unfit conduct when a company goes insolvent. This is like continuing to rack up debt when you know the company is sinking. Big no-no. Other reasons could be constantly failing to file the proper paperwork or engaging in outright fraud or wrongful trading.
And just so we're clear, we're not talking about a slap on the wrist here. A disqualification period starts at a minimum of 2 years. The average is somewhere in that 5 to 10-year range. But for the really bad stuff, a director can be banned for up to 15 years. That's a career ender, and it shows you just how seriously the law views the director's role.
So, when you pull it all together, from all the different types of directors we've met, to that core list of 7 duties, and right through to the serious threat of disqualification, it all points back to one central theme. The role of a director isn't about power or personal gain. It's a position of stewardship. It's about trust, and that trust is owed to the company as a whole. And that brings us to our final question, something for you to chew on as you study. We know the old saying, with great power comes great responsibility. The law certainly tries to enforce that with these duties, but is it enough? In today's incredibly complex business world, are these rules really sufficient to make sure that power is always used for good? That's a big question. For now, best of luck with your exam prep.